So great to have you back. Alonso is back from the Venice Film Festival. Missed you so much. How was the gelato?
Good. I'll tell you, my favorite gelato place closed. I hadn't been back since 2019, and it was no longer there. And I was like, but I found some other good ones. So, and really, there's no bad gelato, I think, in all of Italy. So, what are you going to do? That was great. And, had a good time at the festival. And some years I get really like, I don't know. Like I feel kind of I'm just going to movies and going back to my hotel room and kind of just operating in this weird void. But like this year, I felt like I was seeing people I knew and hanging out and grabbing coffee with, our friend Brent Simon or, people like that. I saw Jacqueline Coley from Rotten Tomatoes used to come on What the Flick back in the day. So I had a good time. It was good. And the movies were good too.
What was the best thing you saw?
I would say hands down, it's Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things.
I am Bella Baxter, and there is a world to enjoy, circumnavigate.
That is a very strong favorite movie of the year contender. And you and I, I'm sure, will be talking about it when it opens later in the fall. But it is definitely going to be an award season player, and it is weirder than The Favorite, but I think people are going to dig it. It's really great.
I'm so excited. We are fans of his around here. Love Dogtooth, love The Lobster, love The Favorite. So
and it's from the writer of The Favorite and Hulu's The Great, which we recapped all of on our Patreon. So
so cool. Okay, so that was really great. And then what else did you see that you loved?
Well, Richard Linklater has a new comedy out called Hitman that he co-wrote with Glenn Powell about this guy who's sort of, kind of anonymous, but winds up like becoming this master of disguise to do like sting operations with the New Orleans police to catch people who are trying to hire hitmen for various reasons. It's kind of goofy, but I found it really entertaining. And it gets a little mired in the based on a true story part because it kind of is, but kind of isn't. And I think better they just untether themselves from that entirely. But anyway, I think it's a lot of fun. I think people are going to have a good time with it. And Glenn Powell, we've seen him really kind of coming up in the last few years, but I think this is going to be his sort of big like breakthrough performance probably.
Right. And he was a total scene stealer in Linklater's Everybody Wants Some.
Yes.
And he was so great in Top Gun Maverick.
Yes,
he's
as
just
Bob.
got that thing. He's got that thing, right?
Absolutely. I still got to go back and catch up with that movie that he did about the fighter pilots in the Korean War.
Oh, right.
It kind of came in Devotion, I think. So anyway, I liked that a lot. And then Priscilla, if you were a fan of Sofia Coppola and her movies about women trapped in luxurious spaces, have I got a movie for you?
Priscilla, what about Boys at School? Must be some handsome ones.
It's well put together. It has a lot of her signature touches. There's pretty much no Elvis music in it, apart from like an instrumental of Love Me Tender or something. But there's like sort of anachronistic, like, you get Baby I Love You, but it's the Ramones version. You get a Jesus and Mary Chain song in there. But it's really good. Kaylee Spaney, who plays Priscilla, is great. Jacob Elordi, I've only seen a very little of Euphoria, but he's a really good Elvis. And I would not wish on any actor having to take over the mantle of playing Elvis this soon after Austin Butler, but he's good. He pulls it off.
It's really different, I understand, as far as the portrayal of Elvis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And movie wise, like aesthetically, it is as Sofia Coppola as Elvis was Baz Luhrmann.
See, that to me is a feature and not a bug.
Exactly.
And I love that we can have both in the world. The world can contain both. Yeah, Sofia Coppola always uses music in such inspired ways, like anachronistic songs, and like her soundtracks are always just impeccably chosen. So
pretty much everything I saw kind of delivered. Like, I'm not the biggest Michael Mann fan in the world, but I thought Ferrari was good. I liked El Conde from Pablo Larraín. The Wes Anderson short, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, is really charming. Weirdly, I flew like halfway around the world to see a lot of Netflix titles, even though I live like 10 minutes from their headquarters. Maestro is not like a complete success, but it's pretty terrific. The performances get better as it goes along, as the characters age. I think it's a little less, Bradley Cooper and
Carey Mulligan.
Thank you, Carey Mulligan, are a little, a little less, like overdoing it. But I think as a director, like Cooper has such confidence and just has some really great choices in there that make this more than your average biopic.
Cool. We'll review all of these films when they come out as the fall goes on. And Priscilla just got moved, right, to November 3rd. So
yeah, they pushed it back a week. I think that was going to be the Dune 2 weekend.
Oh.
And so now A24 has taken that slot because I think their awards confidence is bolstered by the strong reviews that came out of Venice.
Great. Cool. I'm psyched for all of that. Thank you for your recap. A couple of things we got to talk about. This big story came out in Vulture about Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
And so many of you guys asked us to talk about it, which of course we want to because we know this so intimately. And, you know, our good friend Matt for a long time was the editor-in-chief of Rotten Tomatoes. And it has changed a lot in the last few years. He is not there anymore. But basically the gist of it was, we have a link to it down below in the description, that it is this behemoth that all of the studios fear. Like everyone acknowledges that it's kind of a bullshit metric as far as quality, as far as what the critics think, because a 1,000 2.5-star reviews could be a very high positive, like an 86% or whatever, 90%, and everyone craves the validation of that percentage.
Yes.
And the fact that their efforts to diversify, which are necessary and noble as far as having more women, having people of color, people who have not been represented previously, also encompasses people with like blogs, for example, or more freelancers who are trying to establish themselves and are perhaps going to be more effusive. And also some PR firms pay people.
Yes. Well, I think it's a very gameable system. I mean, I know in my experience, I have had publicists contact writers when they think a review is sort of like mixed and we gave it mixed to negative. And they're like, could you maybe just sort of like scooch it up to a positive? I'm like, no, I would have done that if I wanted to do that, you know. And yeah, it does come down to this sort of ridiculous metric of the, you know, having to reach this. You know, it's got to be 60 to be fresh. It's got to be 80, whatever, to be like certified fresh, you know? And so, yeah, I think you have, it's a system that is abusable and it is abused. And so like, if you could look at something like Metacritic, I think that's actually more genuinely reflecting like where critics fall, you know, like giving that kind of number scale as opposed to like a, you know, binary of, you know, fresh rotten. So yeah, I mean, part of the problem is that it does exist in a space that you can tinker with it in a lot of different ways, and part of the problem is that it's gotten such, you know, cultural capital when it doesn't really mean that much.
Yeah, but people said this about Siskel and Ebert too. Like the whole binary of thumbs up and thumbs down was like degrading the critical process.
Yes,
but
I mean,
they were serious critics with like a lot to say.
Sure, but it was still, I mean, I agree, that was very limiting, and a binary is no good for anybody, but like that was two people, and I don't think those guys were as, you know, permeable as a tomato score is, you know?
Yeah. I've had publicists say to me, hey, can you review this? I heard you liked it on the radio. Can you write a review so we can get the number up? Or like, do you post from radio? Like, who does that? I'm like, I don't know. A producer does that. So I've had people pester me quite a bit because they're trying to juice up the score. Like there aren't enough reviews. And anyway, well, so we have a link to that down below for you. There's also a big story in Rolling Stone about Jimmy Fallon and how apparently awful it is to work on The Tonight Show. They interviewed dozens, like 80 people who were current or former staffers who all talk about what a volatile environment is, how abusive he can be. There's a crying room, but there's like a dream to go work in comedy, work in late night. This is like a pinnacle of success, and so people stick around and they endure it. But there's an update to that story. So just yesterday, Jimmy Fallon and the show's, I don't want to malign him. Fallon and the show's current showrunner did a call with staffers on Zoom, and he apologized, and he was like, I'm so sorry. This is embarrassing for you and for your family. So Danny Masterson yesterday was sentenced to 30 years in prison in connection with the rape of a couple of different women. He had been convicted on 2 of the 3 counts against him. And so that is a lot longer. It was 15 years for each conviction. But what we're learning today is that a lot of people wrote on his behalf to vouch for him to try to get a more lenient sentence for him, including his former That 70s Show co-hosts, or co-stars rather, Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis.
Really,
yes, vouching for his character. And Ashton Kutcher said it would be, and he used the word tertiary, a tertiary injury if his daughter is left fatherless. So they're all looking out for each other.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyways, these letters, all these letters are out there because Tony Ortega, who was the longtime watchdog of Scientology, of which Danny Masterson has been a long time, a very high profile member, and these victims also were part of Scientology, and that's why they were silenced for so long. But those letters are all out there now. Because
Leah Remini has a statement about like how brave it was for them to come forward when they were really all, kind of harassed not to,
Yes. And finally, some good news. There's going to be an actual movie of Thanksgiving.
Let's see.
If you saw Grindhouse and you loved the fake trailer for the fake movie Thanksgiving.
White meat, dark meat, all will be carved.
Eli Roth, I think he's been talking about it for a while. Eli Roth did that trailer and now has made a full movie of it. And it's coming out in November, of course. So,
but like the week before Thanksgiving, I'm like, that seems brief. Like, there's not like there's going to be a big post-Thanksgiving audience for Thanksgiving. I think you'd want to have that out like for Halloween, but what do I know?
But I'm thinking though, is this the first fake movie from a real movie to become a real movie itself?
Machete.
That's true.
Machete was also a Grindhouse trailer.
Yeah. I want a sack lunch movie. Did they ever make Don't?
They did not make Don't. I wish they would make Don't.
I want sack lunch from Seinfeld. Anyone can go see The English Patient. I want sack lunch